Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm good. I see. Is that your Juve lights in the background?
It is. Yeah, I have it in because we're in the condo, I have it in this extra bedroom, but I'm super pumped. My house is still getting remodeled from the Texas flood. I mean, not flood, but ice storm that we had. Yep. That was like the ice apocalypse here. Yep. Anyway, the good things that are coming out of it is I'm getting to add some cool equipment to my exercise room. I'm getting a brand new infrared sauna, which I'm super pumped about. And I'm going to do a cold plunge.
Are you really?
Yes, because everything in my genetics says a cold plunge is great for me. And cryo doesn't do the same thing. I've tried cryo. It just doesn't do the same thing. So I'm biting the bullet because I got some insurance money on a big thing, sauna that I had. So I'm going to take it now.
Go? Where is the where
okay,
is it
so you're going to be so sad. You know where the gift room was?
Yes.
That's now another exercise room. So I have two exercise rooms. One's going to have the cardio and the cold plunge, and the other one's going to have I have this new piece of equipment called a gluteator that's coming because I have trouble with my hips all the time from running. Mm-hmm. This machine is fabulous. My gym has one.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to see that. Adam will absolutely he'll fly there just to do it. He's obsessed with the cold plunge thing.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll just have to have a retreat at the McKissick Ritz in Dallas. We don't even have to go. And you and I'll go shopping in Dallas, and we'll find some. And we'll go over to that store in Fort Worth that we both like. We'll have fun stuff to do.
Yes, that sounds.
And we're so busy, we never put anything on the calendar. We gotta get our 2022 calendars out in the next few weeks and put in the big rocks that we keep saying we want to do.
Totally agree with that because I have now resorted to printing these sheets of paper with my days. And I told Adam, I'm like, all of this, I'm putting, I did semi-good with vacations, but I want to next year put in all those things that I really want to do first and then build everything else around that for sure.
You know, that reminds me of something. I was working on my planner the other day. I'm finding that now the flying time, I've really honed in on getting very productive with it, whether if Sarah's with me, we're real super productive. But I decided I was just going to work on some stuff myself. And I just kind of wrote at the bottom of my tablet, what would I be doing right now if I wasn't thinking about how much something costs? In other words, not that I'm worried about the money or anything like that, but what would I be doing because I have a logical side to me that holds me back a little bit from certain things. Jimmy's not allowed to even tell me how much each of our flights cost because I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. However, I wrote that on there and I realized very, very quickly something popped up in my mind. And it was to fly Preston, Anna, and the girls here this week because we're keeping Ellie Bailey's at the beach house and have everybody get to be together.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm doing it. So I'm going to start doing that every so often. I'm going to write that question down. And then whatever the immediate answer is, I'm going to just make it happen.
I love that. That's a great idea.
Because, it worked for me. Just something came to me instantly and I'm super pumped and I'm excited. Yeah. And I think if we do that sometime, if time were an issue or money were an issue, what would I want to do right now? And just write that down and then just act on it.
You know, actually, that's a good point because sometimes it's not even the money, it's the time. It could be either or.
It is. Yeah, it's one or both. And here's the thing I found. I have plenty of time for stuff that I will plan in the future. I have no time for stuff that happens last minute sometimes.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is...
Well, yeah, what would be an example of that?
Well, like with my trainer, I will always squeeze her out unless I've learned that unless a week in advance, I ask her for what times she has available and I go ahead and commit to those. Well, and it would be the same. Well, here's another example. I know Jimmy was, he's getting ready to go on a fishing trip. Well, I know that means I've got a week at the beach house. Last year I took my trainer, and I thought, okay, who do I want to take this year? And I started working on it in advance. Yeah. Because if I didn't, before I know it, the time would be here and I would have invited nobody. Yeah. So those kind of things. And then just like you know, just asking yourself simple questions. If time were not an issue, what would I really want to be doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
And if money weren't an issue, what would I really want to be doing right now?
Yeah.
So it just something clicked with me, and I said, I'm going to start asking myself on a regular basis this, and I'm just going to, whatever comes to my mind, I'm going to put it on the calendar or book it.
Yep. Love it. Love that. Everybody should write that down.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about our big ideas that we got from Mega Camp. It was an amazing Mega Camp. Always is. Every year I say this is the best one ever. And I've been doing it 20 something years. So I don't know how I keep saying that, but I do.
You know, it was crazy because really it was supposed to be in person in Austin. And at the last minute, KW pivoted really in a huge way because of the COVID spikes there in Austin.
Right.
And so they canceled it and went straight to digital. And I thought, you know, oh gosh, I hope everything's okay. And I had guests, you know, and all that stuff. And it was like, it was flawless. I couldn't get over it. I texted Mark King yesterday and I said, I just want to say, like, great job. Y'all crushed it to pivot in that short of an amount of time. I mean, that was a really big deal. And the speakers and just everybody, I mean, I know this is no surprise to you, but I have 38 pages of notes on a legal pad from the 3 days. And it was just next week with that, thankfully, you're going to be a part of. I'm doing a big event for our top 20%. Because there's so much stuff, it's like you can't even get it in that time. You almost have to like revisit it all. It was great.
Yeah. So what was your biggest takeaway? What was something that you kind of, I'm going to say a theme I kind of picked up on that maybe it was just what I was needing to hear from people, but what were some of the highlights for you?
Definitely the biggest, all the agents that shared what they were doing, all those things were great. And I'll drop, a couple of those. But the greatest for me was actually just our industry and how quickly things are changing. And Gary said at one point, we even at the beginning of the year, we used to say in the future. And he said on the last day that what you guys don't understand is the future is now. Like it's happening now. And what we were talking about for the last 1 to 2 years, and even at the beginning of this year, I mean, it's happening now. And there were things that blew me away. But the biggest one that I got from him is just the consumers and what our consumers want and being able to provide to them truly what every consumer wants. And he said a couple of things that I loved. They shared a case study about the auto industry. And they compared it to big car dealerships right now, and then looking at Tesla. Did you see that? I mean, I was blown away by that. And he said that history has always proved, and it's a trend, that the consumer always, always, always gets what they want. And so, for example, he said like Safelite Auto, how this has happened to me a million times because I travel a lot, but rocks hit your windshield and your whole windshield cracks. Well, Safelite is free through your insurance no matter what, and they come to your house or they come to your office. And that's why it's always been so popular, because it's convenient to you. And then he said the same thing with Tesla. I mean, you can buy one from your phone in like a 15-minute time span, and they bring it to your house. And then from then they come to you for oil changes or tie. It's like this whole flip-flop of consumers and convenience. And I thought this was nuts, Linda. He said, of course I knew this, but I didn't really ever put it into perspective. Automobile and real estate industries are the two most thought out purchases of any American, them buying a piece of real estate and them buying an automobile. And so we need to pay close attention to kind of how those are. And he said that it boils down to ultimate optionality for consumers. Like people want options and they want convenience and they want quick and they want, ease. And I loved what he gave the definition of luxury. He said, easy, fast, and beautifully delivered. And I thought, why would we not use that for everything we do, for our agents and our market centers, for our clients, for those of us that are still selling real estate? How can we make the experience easy, fast, and beautifully delivered? I mean, there were so many things around that I just thought of. I'm like, golly, it's changing so fast. And he said it's so many industries are going through this. It's not just us, it's every industry.
So true. And I thought about that yesterday. I had to go around with my designer because, my house flooded and we're having to replace furniture and stuff that got rent. And, it was kind of frustrating because either everything was 20 weeks behind.
Yep.
And you could just buy off the floor, which Jimmy immediately wants to buy off the floor. He doesn't want to have to wait for anything. And I'm like, no, if I have something super special, I'm willing to wait. But here's what I thought. Because, of this, and I think once we start to realize this, we're going to start to see it in our own desires. But what I said to John at the end of the day was, I said, John, what I really wish there was a way that between you and I could sit down. And I don't know if this is with the 3D printers that are coming, which I still can't get my arms around how they're going to build houses and do all that stuff. But trust me, they're gonna. Is if I wanted to say, okay, here's what I love. I love like leather and kind of rustic, but then I also want soft cushions. If we could just sit down and you and I could draw it out, and then I could just order it. That's what I really want to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to take whatever I can find here, or I know in my mind what I want, but I want someone to make it for me.
Yep.
And so I thought, that's a perfect example of, because I have gotten what I want and I've had options in other places in my life, I'm starting to expect it in bigger places. I'm starting to say,
the crazy thing about that too, Linda, is you still wanted a belly to belly, person to person to help you with it.
Oh yeah, John's phenomenal. He's like the best ever. As a matter of fact, we got to have him on our podcast. He is so good. And I said, I want you, but I want my input to matter, because I'm not seeing, we don't get leather. I love leather, but our last leather couch was so expensive and it wasn't that comfortable.
Yeah. And
so I said, but I love leather. So I could have it all over the other place, but the cushions be this other warm stuff that I want. I don't know. It made me realize that I'm starting to demand that in my own life in areas where it's not available yet.
Well, because in other things we're getting ease and comfort and optionality, and then in the places that aren't, we're like, get with the times, like get it together.
It's rubbing us wrong. It's irritating us. It's very irritating.
Yeah. And I mean, I just thought it was interesting that the studies after studies after studies, I mean, it all shows that every industry is going through this. And really,
I don't think we're going to be able to do it, Dana, without technology.
That was the next
one. I mean, I think we all thought we had this ability to, and some people are, and we're doing it to one extreme. But I think to do it to the extreme that the consumer is going to want, it's going to have to be with technology. It can't just be, oh yeah, our team does this. You know what I mean? Because any team can do that. What is the technology that's going to allow us to do, know certain things and deliver certain things and, be on the forefront of things that they need before they even know they need them.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a great point, because that made me think about the next thing that I loved that was said during Mega Camp. And I can't remember, it might've been Gary that said this, but it's about having the vision to like put it out there and to really know what's happening. And he said, when you're a visionary, it's when people agree with you, but when they don't, you're just wrong. But he said, having a vision is being able to look at the past, the present, and then what the future can be, and then setting forth that vision. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to technology, are either afraid to, or they don't like the change of it. Or, they're slow to adopt, or whatever it is. But the reality is that when they say that our agent count is going to drastically change, more new people are getting in and more seasoned people are getting out. A big part of that is because a lot of them aren't willing to adopt. They aren't willing to make any of the changes. And a huge takeaway for me from Mega Camp was just, you have to be willing to change. I mean, even if you've only been in the business 3 years, it's different now than it was 3 years ago, especially if you've been in it for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we even have some agents that don't want to change. They don't want to. And I think if they don't, I'm kind of scared for them, because I just think somebody who comes in, who's willing to get their people on their mobile app and really touch them 100 times a year through drip campaigns and touch programs and build relationships, they're going to take market share from the people that aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So another big thing that stood out to me, Dana, was I listened to some agents, and it made me realize a topic that we don't talk about enough, which I'd love for you and I to dive into in a few more episodes too, is agents get themselves in financial trouble.
Yep.
And then they make decisions based on that financial trouble. So I think we need more education and training around. And I remember even a time in my own career where I didn't hold my taxes out first, you
Same.
know, and, you know, I maybe probably mingled my money together. I didn't have separate accounts. I mean, certain things I eventually learned, but I'm seeing agents make major business decisions because they've gotten themselves in a financial mess and they kind of feel like it's the only option.
Yeah, I totally agree. I loved the session that we did with Tom Wheelwright. Is that his name? The
Yeah.
author of Tax Free Wealth? Yeah. That I'm
Yes.
trying to find that in my notes right now. Yes, Tom Wheelwright. I loved that we got that interview with him. I mean, so many things that he said resonated with exactly what you're saying. And it was a kind of a theme. You could hear some of those top agents say, I did this because I was thousands of dollars in tax debt, or I did this because no one ever
Yeah.
taught me what to do with my, expenses or my P&L. And so I felt like that was such good knowledge that he brought to that. He said a couple of things from him while I have it pulled up. How you make your money and what you do determines how much tax you pay. You have to behave like you're a big guy even when you're not. And then he said, recognize that we are partners with the government. We pay them with every single check that we have. And so the way to do it is to truly figure out your tax advantages that you have. Oh, I like this. He said, if you want to change your tax, you have to change the facts. And we have to understand more about. My biggest takeaway from him was, I just don't need an accountant. I need a tax advisor. And everybody
Oh,
should
no
have a tax
kidding.
advisor.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember his program. Do you remember what his program was? He actually has a program. I wrote that down. I said, we are absolutely going to do this.
Yes, he
Because
said,
we
go
have
to
one of
what?
the problems. You either can't get your finances right so that you have money to build wealth, or you build wealth and then you're not really sure what to do next, because there's not a lot of great books that says, oh, now that you've done a great job of building wealth, here's some things you need to know.
Yep. I don't have I wrote down wealthability.com. I know
That's it.
that's,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
it.
I haven't had a chance, but I am going to check that out. Oh, but one thing he said I thought of, solar panels and charging stations right now are the two largest tax deductions.
I know. And you know, it's funny because we're going to do charging stations at our office in Dayton, Ohio. Jimmy had just checked into that.
I know Jimmy told me about it. So I had checked into it for my market centers too. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I wrote that down. He said people are buying buildings and then adding solar and adding charging stations. And right now, oh shoot, where was it's a huge deduction for charging stations on commercial property. I can't find it in my notes, but yeah, those two were huge takeaways for me. I was like, oh, perfect. Jimmy was ahead of the game.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how he got ahead of the game, but he did good.
What was another one that you had?
You know, the connection back with people's database.
Yeah.
You know, database, and you know, how many years have you been taught that database is so important, and we still have agents who either don't have it or don't work it.
Yep.
And I saw that no matter what situation they were in, their big turning point was when they got back connected with their database.
Yep. Yeah, the database was a huge one, and like the building communities. I took a ton of notes on that. Oh my gosh, yeah, from Nick and Tristan. The platforms right now rated are Facebook at 2.8 million active users, then YouTube at 2.3, the WhatsApp at 2,000, and then Instagram at 2 million, and then Instagram at 1.4 million. And then it goes kind of down from there, Facebook Messenger, WeChat, and then TikTok. But 1.8 billion Facebook users actually engage in some sort of a closed group on Facebook. And that was, yeah, mind-blowing to me. One of the biggest ahas I took away from him on that too, because I have the Wednesday morning mindset group and I've got about 2,500 people in there right now. And he said, if you have a group, the biggest thing you have to have are moderators. So it's not constantly just you going in and putting content and doing all those things. You have to designate people who are moderators. The community and the database were, huge parts. And I feel like a lot of our agents, I mean, we still have agents who've been in the business for 10 plus years and don't have a database. And so I just had a staff meeting with our Kentucky office this morning, and our big question was, what can we do to get agents to come in and like let us help create their database, because they don't even have one and they've sold for years. But I love that Gary said an audience watches and a community interacts, and there's a big difference between the two.
Yeah, and I think probably because of COVID, we've all looked for more niche groups to get closer to and get certain questions answered and certain ideas shared. I notice with my own self, I'm not huge on social media. I know I should be better, but I've noticed that I do, in the groups that are of interest to me, I do get into those communities, and I do depend on those communities. So it's almost like we're all wanting more community because of, I think COVID kind of pushed us over the edge. I think community's always been important, but I think it's even more important now. Yeah,
I totally agree. I do think that that's interesting, though. It truly is what interests you. So it's like trying to figure out the things that interest everybody.
And that's true, because if it's not motivating and energizing for you, you're not going to stick with it. So that's the one theme I noticed with all the top producers. Whatever they did, it was very interesting and motivating to them. It wasn't like, oh, let me just pick, a topic that I think everybody will be interested in. It's where is my life at this moment, and what am I most energized, excited, and motivated by? Because I think if we start groups and community of things that don't interest us and don't motivate us and energize us, you'll very quickly either not want to do it, or you'll start dreading it, or you just, will quit it. And I think what I notice with every top producer is they're very consistent. Whatever venue, whether it's, network events, whether it's, Facebook groups, tribes they're building, whatever, they stay very, very consistent with it. They don't get excited about it and then quit completely. So that's what we learned and we loved about Mega Camp this year. We've got a lot more, so maybe Dana will do a next episode and even add more of the great tips and ideas that we got from Mega Camp this year.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say, I think we should do a quick part 2 because we didn't get to talk about the interview with Kendra Scott either. So we'll have to do a part 2 for sure.
Yep, definitely do a part 2. And remember, if you have a topic, a question, an opportunity, or a challenge that you'd like for Dana and I to discuss on this podcast, or you'd like to come on and discuss with us, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And if you hadn't, please hit subscribe below. And remember, the greatest compliment you can give Dana and myself is to pass this podcast along to someone that you think that would benefit from our conversations. So Dana, I'm excited. I'll see you hopefully in person next week.
Yes, I'll see you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.